Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Mortuary. I am the Mortician, and today I have a recent albums pickup. Yes. So let's start this off with cassettes. First cassette I have here is Gorefest's Erase. If you guys are not familiar with Gorefest, this is like a death metal, or they used to be death metal. What I hold in my hand is their death and roll days, we'll call it. It's like death metal infused with rock and roll. And this album is pretty killer in my opinion. A couple things that need to be said about this particular album, and Gorefest in general. They don't really scream like other death metal guys do. And in saying that, I mean like the vocalist more yells than screams in this. So some people might be turned off by that. I'm not. I enjoy the album regardless of the vocal style. The solos are really why I say this is death and roll. The solos are totally like rock and roll, like the way they bend and the way the scales they use for the solos definitely scream rock and roll more than death metal, but the riffs are no bullshit death metal for the most part. The thing I have to critique this album for, though, is the songs run on a little bit too long, in my opinion. Like, they take, I don't know, they must use the same verse throughout one song, like, several times. I mean, these songs, I think, are, like, 4 or 5 minutes each, and they don't need to be that long. Good album. Next, we have Godflesh, who is an industrial metal band from Birmingham, England, I believe. They're from the UK. And this is the first industrial metal album I ever got, and what an album to start with. This album, to me, rings more of like an atmospheric kind of industrial. Like I said, I'm not very familiar, but if I were to pin it as something, it's very atmospheric. There's some repetition within the album. Sometimes some of the same riffs or similar sounding riffs, but really, it just works. Like if you were to put this on and do something else while listening to it, it'd be awesome. Like playing video games with this as the soundtrack would be absolutely awesome. I don't remember if I named the album, but it's Godflesh's Songs of Love and Hate. Another thing I really like they actually set this up so one side's love and the other side's hate. So I'll show you that real quick. Which I find cool. And yeah, they do sound slightly different from each other. I'm not going to say it's like a night and day difference. But it sounds different enough. For example, I think it's the end of side love. It actually might be side hate. Where the very last song on the album is like him trying to sing. Now, if I had to explain the vocal style for the rest of the album, it'd kind of be like some kind of rap vocalization without there being rap. Like maybe, I wouldn't say Fred Durst kind of stuff. I think that's an insult. But something along those lines where it's not screaming, it's not singing, it's not like, yelling. It's like, it's somewhere in the middle. But this last song, he just tries to sing and it sucks. It's like Picnic for Love kind of anal cunt in my opinion. It just sounds that bad to me. Although overall the album is really, really awesome. Very solid album. It's only the last song I have a problem with, and it'll probably grow on me if I listen to it more. So, Pagan Altar, Judgment for the Dead. If you're not familiar with Pagan Altar, these guys are part of the new wave of British heavy metal. If you're not familiar with the new wave of British heavy metal, they're bands like Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, Venom, Motorhead. These bands, are called the new wave of British heavy metal. This is when the heavy metal in Britain became way more intense, way more gain, slightly more aggressive, especially in the case of Venom, and I would say also in Motorhead. The riffs became more dissident and whatnot. But with this album, this is like, if I had to compare it to another band, I would compare it to like the guitars and whatnot are somewhat Black Sabbathy, but like the vocals are like folk, not like folk metal, but just like folk music. And when you first hear it, it might put you off, but trust me, just give it a chance, and I'm sure you'll love it. Because the first time I heard this was actually in the record shop. The guy asked me if I wanted to hear it, because it was like, hey, have you ever listened to Pagan Altar? And he was like, yeah, they're pretty good. They're kind of like, they got this Black Sabbath-y sound. He asked if I wanted to hear it, so he put it on for me. The vocals put me off, but the more I listened to it in the shop, because he played quite a bit of the album for me in the shop, which is very, very nice of him. And the vocals are pretty awesome once you get used to them. Like I said, the guitars are very Black Sabbath-y. It's a pretty bass-heavy sound. It's like a lower-gained doom metal kind of guitars and drums and everything. The solos are really spectacular. Once again, there's not a whole lot of gain on these guitars, especially on the solos, and it really works well. They did a great job on this album. I'm really happy I actually ended up picking this up. Next, for the last CD, we have probably one of my favorite metal records, probably of all time, but one of my favorite bands of all time, Judas Priest, Screaming for Vengeance. Yeah, this is the remasters version, but whatever. I'm sure Judas Priest needs no introduction. A lot of people like to pin Painkiller as one of Judas Priest's best records, if not the best record. And I completely agree with that. Painkiller is like super heavy and the solos are like so intense, but this I enjoy more because this was a midway point between like Sad Wings and Destiny and Painkiller. It just has that slowed down, mellow kind of Judas Priesty sound, like The Ripper or something. But most of the songs have the intensity and the gain of something much later or something later. Songwriting is impeccable. One of my favorite songs off this is definitely, Screaming for Vengeance. Done absolutely beautifully. Rob Halford is, of course, is like a metal god for a reason. But they do a great job on this record. The solos are great. The riff work is really awesome. And, of course, I have a soft spot in my heart for Judas Priest. Because one metal band that we listened to a lot when I would say from like 12 to like 16 or 17, we used to listen to a lot of Judas Priest. Like I said, Sad Wings of Destiny, Jugulator, Painkiller, of course. Rock-a-Rolla is another one, which is like their rock and roll days. Great album, by the way, Rock-a-Rolla. We used to listen to it a lot. And I've always been more of a Priest guy than an Iron Maiden guy. See, the thing with Iron Maiden is like, I like songs by Iron Maiden, but I don't like albums. And the particular reason I don't like albums by Iron Maiden is because they lack structure. A lot of Iron Maiden albums, in my opinion, I'm probably going to catch fire for this, but they lack a structure. It just seems like every time I listen to an Iron Maiden record, like I have Power Slave, it just seems like it's all over the fucking place with what it's doing. Whereas like Judas Priest, they don't have the finicky guitars like like songs like Trooper or whatever. They have solid, constructive, structured riffs with impeccable solos, which are some of my favorite. My favorite solos are probably Judas Priest solos, most of them. And this here is no exception. Done awesomely. Like I said, one of my favorite records probably of all time. Now for the last thing, a little winded from all of that, but the last thing we have here is Rotting Christ, Theogenia? I've never seen this word before, so like you can't blame me for not understanding it. Theogenia? I think it's Theogenia. No, Theogenia. Theogenia, I think. Anyway, if you don't not familiar with Rotting Christ, it's kind of hard to put them in a genre, but for this album, they're a black metal band, a melodic black metal band from Athens, Greece. They do a great job on this record. There's a lot of really interesting choices. Like the riffs are pretty, I would say it's pretty simplistic on this album, but it's not a bad thing because they actually have a lot going on despite the simplicity of the riffs. For example, there's like something that sounds like bagpipes or a fiddle going on. You have some kind of lady singing, it all works and builds on each other in a very good way, and it's actually recorded and produced really really well. Once again, they did a good job mixing and mastering this album. And even though it is melodic, a lot of black metal bands or melodic black metal bands that I've listened to, some of them sacrifice beauty for evil or dissonance, or some of them sacrifice evil and dissonance for beauty. With Rotting Christ, they kind of hit that special, perfect blend, almost kind of like Dissection. Their melodies are completely different, by the way, so don't ever they don't sound the same. But what they do have is they're able to capture this very particular atmosphere that this band, and it seems like Dissection, are really good at capturing. And even when the music slows down to build melody, or to use tremolo pick, or a melody that's more tremolo picked, it keeps the evil nature of the record, which is awesome. They did a great job on this record. I'm happy I picked it up. And the thing was, I was worried about picking this record up because I've listened to Rotting Christ before. Like, I've listened to a single song by Rotting Christ before. And I was like, I don't like them. You know what the problem was? I should have listened to a whole record by Rotting Christ before I judged them. A lot of bands, like, you can listen to like one song, even like Judas Priest. You can listen to like Electric Eye or Scream for Vengeance or Between the Hammer and the Anvil and like the song. But Rotting Christ is in a very particular place where, like, to really appreciate the band, you have to listen to a record the entire way through, because one song just won't do the record justice. So I'm actually glad I took the chance on Rotting Christ, Theogenia, whatever. I'm glad I took that chance on this record, because it's really, really good together. If I would have listened to a single song, I probably wouldn't have liked it, but it works well together as a complete work of art. So that's what I think. What are you guys listening to? What have you guys picked up album-wise? So yeah, Mortician, keep it brutal.